yeah.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah,
Great
hello,
to see
mate.
you. How are you?
Mate, it's been a while.
It's been
Yeah.
a good few years.
Yeah.
It's been a good few years, but it's nice to see you.
And you.
But yeah, I'll give you a little bit of background on me, right? Raised in Dublin as a kid. My dad worked in the UK. I've just come from the gym. I've just finished training.
Yeah.
And we used the gym in Digbeth, Flex Fitness in Digbeth.
Nice.
So we're only across the road, really, from
Perfect.
the Blues grounds. That's why I came straight from the gym.
Classic, yeah.
And yeah, growing up in Dublin, had a great childhood. I'm the eldest of 7. I got 4 younger sisters and 2 younger brothers. Well, my dad, like a lot of the Irish, came to the UK to work, or he went to America to work. So we wouldn't see him sometimes for 11 months of the year. But he would send the money home so my mother could, keep the house and feed us. And we didn't have luxuries. Like, we didn't have chocolate biscuits or anything like that. Only did well to do with the chocolate biscuits. But we had biscuits. And my mum would make apple pies and rhubarb pies and mince pies. And, we wouldn't be hungry. Yeah. There's a lot worse off than us. And we would get to visit my dad in the UK maybe once a year, for a holiday. We'd come over on the boat. We'd get the boat from Dublin out to Holyhead, or we'd get the boat from Dublin to Liverpool. And then we'd join him wherever he was working in the UK for a couple of weeks, and he'd spoil us. Or he'd come home, for them few weeks, twice a year, and he'd spoil us, So
What was he working as?
he was into construction work, he was a concrete worker, and he travelled the world as a concrete worker. And he was a hard-working man. I lost my mum and dad in 2022. It was a bad year. My dad passed on the 24th of April 2022 on his 85th birthday. And my mother went downhill after that. She passed on the 28th of December 2022. I said I wouldn't cry. I cry a lot, Kevin, and I said I wouldn't cry. I worshipped the ground the two of them stood on, it is. All my life, all I wanted to do was to do them proud. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And I hope I did.
I think so.
I hope I did. But when we used to come to the UK to visit my dad, I got bullied because I had the Irish accent.
Right.
And I got my 2 front teeth knocked out in Manchester on the day I made my Holy Communion. I was 8 years of age. And the 2 bully boys, they were like 15 or 16. I was holding on to my Holy Communion medal so they couldn't take my medal. And they knocked my 2 front teeth out, but they didn't get my medal. All my years boxing, only ever had 1 tooth knocked out, Kevin. So the boxing ring was probably a safe place for me. But my dad, he encouraged us to do sport, to keep busy. My sisters would do the gymnastics. Me and my brothers would do the boxing or the Gaelic or the judo or the Sea Scouts. He encouraged us to keep busy. Idle hands make work for the devil, and he encouraged us to be doing things. We were very close, all my brothers and sisters. And when my dad was away, I was the man of the house as such, so I had to stop the bullies. When I came to this country, I got bullied because I had the Irish accent. So I picked up the English accent to mix in. And then when I went home to Dublin, I got bullied in Dublin because I had the English accent, So I've been dealing with bullies all my life. But when my dad was away, I was the man of the house. I would mind my brothers and sisters. And when the bullies would beat me, rather than hit them, I would jump back up and say, no, hit me more. Don't hit them, And I could absorb a beating. I could take a beating. I've took many, many beatings. So when I went into the boxing, really, there was only one man hitting me, Even if it was Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis, it was one man. When I got beaten by the bullies, there was always 2 or more, and you'd be getting kicked and punched, and you might be getting it with sticks or whatever, So the boxing ring was relatively safe. You began it with
one vision of
and they'd have gloves on, and you'd have a break in between rounds. You'd have the best of medical care at ringside. I never had that luxury when you were getting beaten by the bullies, And I do a lot of anti-bullying, I do a lot of anti-bullying because when I was a kid, you got physically bullied. You know, you get your arm broke, your jaw broke, your nose broke, your leg broke, whatever the bullies were able to do to you, they would do it, you know. But there'd be a time scale on when the physical injuries would heal, you know. Today, it's mental bullying as well as physical bullying. You know, kids are getting tortured, and adults are getting tortured on the social media, on the mobile phones, on the internet, on the computers, you know. And it's a mental torture. And there's no time scale for healing of a mental torture. And it's horrific what's happening. And then there's people, men, women, children taking their lives. And the government's saying, oh, it's peer pressure. It's pressure because exams. It's pressure from jobs. They won't admit that it's pressure from bullies. You know, schoolyard bullies, office bullies.
Well, back in the day, yeah, I got bullied when I was at school, but you could finish school or finish the hour after school, get back, close your door.
Oh, yeah.
Done, isn't it?
That was a safe haven. You could make, close your front door.
If anything now, because you're not in school, it's rife, it's Snapchat, it's all the social medias, and you just can't escape it, can you? It could be all hours of the morning. It's relentless.
The internet is a great thing. The World Wide Web is a great thing, but it's also a cruel thing. You know, there's a lot of cruelty on it with people being bullied over it, the social media and the internet and stuff, you know. But my life it was a good life, but a hard life, Kevin. You know, we like I said, we grew up in Dublin, had hard times, but good times. You know, like I said earlier on, there was a lot worse off than us. And when my dad was in our company, when he'd be home or when we visit him, we got spoiled something rotten. You know, he did bring us to Wimpy was the big thing when we were kids, you know. You know, it's McDonald's and that now, but Wimpy was, you'd go, you get the big Knickerbocker Glory milkshake, you know, and it was great, you know. You'd go to the cinema and you get all the sweets. He really would spoil us, you know. Mum would do the best she could, you know, but it's very hard when she was on her own with 7 kids, but she would do the best she could. An incredible woman. But
do you think that bullying then set you up like for the boxing, that you were kind of like, okay, well, let's learn?
That was the reason why. That was the reason why I started boxing. My dad encouraged us. He boxed, and he came from the west of Ireland. My mum's people are travelling people. They came, and from Dublin, and they met when she was 15. He was 20. They eloped. They got married. He gave us 7 kids. You know, with my mum's people, the horse people, Romany people, and good people, you know. I don't know how many generations back, 3 or 4 or 5 generations back. One of my mum's granduncle, Giggins Riley, used to lease Shire horses at the Guinness. You know, that was a claim to fame by the Riley family, that Giggins Riley was friends with Arthur Guinness. And I don't even drink alcohol. I'm an Irishman that doesn't drink alcohol. People say to me, what sort of an Irishman are you? We're expected to drink.
Down on you.
The Irish are expected to drink. I said, listen, my dad used to say I'm a failure as an Irishman because I don't drink. I had 1 Guinness with my dad when I was 16 and I didn't like it. You know, I prefer a glass of milk.
Yeah.
And people laugh at me to this day. I remember.
I bet you get some joy.
Oh, okay. So listen, I was in Marbella at a boxing show, and I bumped into 2 Spanish promoters. I was introduced to them at the boxing event, and they said, we met you before, Joe. I said, did you? They said, yes. They said, we met you in England. We were over at a boxing event in England. And I said, oh, it's nice to meet you again. They said, there's 2 things that we remember from you. And I said, well, tell me the 2 things you remember. They said, we were at the bar, and we were in a crowded bar, and we just saw this very menacing looking man walking towards us at the bar. And then you said, excuse me, could I get past, please? And they said, that's the first thing we remember, your impeccable manners. And I said, what's the second thing? They said, you ordered a glass of milk at the bar. That was the 2 Spanish boxing promoters, you know. And it was funny. It was funny.
Just touching upon that manners is just the easiest and the most beautiful thing that I think we're losing a little bit, or kids are maybe losing. We've been great, so we're from an Irish family, but that is the thing that's ground into us, that they cost nothing and just
Cost nothing. Manners cost
Yeah.
nothing. Manners make it a person, you know. And when you're remembered for your manners, when people remind you how refreshing it was with manners, it makes it all nice, you know, because sometimes they're appreciated, sometimes they're not, you know. Sometimes people take manners as a weakness. You know, I pride myself on my manners. I'm not weak, but I pride myself on my manners, you know. And it's nice when people compliment you and say, you're very mannerly. You know, I don't want to be known as a tough guy. I want to be known as a personal, mannerly guy, you know, because that's what...
be both though, can't you? You can obviously
Listen,
be both, but not like, I know what you mean about tough guy kind of.
Listen,
Everyone's like,
the
oh,
world
God.
is full of tough guys. The world is full of them. Every street,
Yeah.
every city, every country. Tough guys in every street, men and women. There's very few mannerly people in every street, in every city, you know. So
I try and instill it into my kids.
yeah,
Please and thank you. It just gets you
Costs nothing.
way, and
Costs
yeah,
nothing,
it's just like,
you know.
okay, it's refreshing, isn't it? It's just like, okay, yeah, and
Man, listen, kindness,
yeah.
right? That's one of the greatest boxers to ever enter the boxing ring. One of the greatest human beings to ever enter the world, Muhammad Ali. I met him on 4 occasions. I was very, very privileged. I went to his home in Michigan. Al Capone used to own his house. I know he lives in Al Capone's old house. Muhammad Ali, God rest the man. Boxing was blessed to have this man. You know, he could have turned his hand to football, American football, baseball, athletics. He was just a supreme athlete. But he always said about manners, you know. He said he wished people would be kind to each other, and he wished there was more manners. He wished there was people would be polite. He tried to push that onto everybody, you know. And he's the heavyweight champion and one of the greatest of all time, as he said, GOAT, GOAT, greatest of all time. Yeah. And he probably was in my eyes. Yeah. I think he was. Yeah. You know,
100%.
He's an exceptional human being. And
there's no need for him to be like that, is that? If he wasn't genuinely like that, he didn't have to be like that. He could just be an arse.
He was just a kind man. You know, he was just a kind man, and boxing was privileged to have him. The world was privileged to have him, you know. He was just an exceptional human being, you know. And like I said, when I met him on 4 occasions, you're in the presence of greatness. You know, it's just that I loved the sport of boxing and I idolized that man. I used to do an alley shuffle as a tribute to him. You know, I couldn't lace his boots, I couldn't lace his gloves, but I used to love him.
An inspiration to a generation, wasn't it?
Yes. Even the Rocky story. People think that the Rocky story is just a figment of Sylvester Stallone's imagination. The Rocky story comes from the Muhammad Ali story, because I tell you how it came about. There's a man called Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne bleeder. And Muhammad Ali, when he won the title, he wanted to do a tour of America. For people that don't know this is fact. He wanted to do a tour of America, and he was going to give the 50 state champions a shot at the heavyweight champion of the world. Once a month, he was going to fight the state champion. Now, New Jersey was the capital of boxing at the time, Atlantic City. I fought in Atlantic City twice. I fought in the Sands Hotel and Casino and the Tropicana Hotel and Casino. I never fought in Vegas, but I fought in Atlantic City twice. But New Jersey was the capital of boxing at the time. Vegas took over after that. But the New Jersey champion, Bayonne, New Jersey, was Chuck Wepner. So he was the first opponent of Muhammad Ali. Anyway, Chuck Wepner got the chance of a lifetime to fight the heavyweight champion of the world as a state champion. Not even a contender for the American title, don't mind the world title. So the man fought like a Trojan. He fought like a bat out of hell. He fought like a Spartan. And he went to 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali in a war. Muhammad Ali said to his management team, I can't do this every month. He said, I can't do this. He said, if this is what's going to come at me every month, I can't do this. Yeah. And the tour was stopped after the first fight. Now, Chuck Wepner was friends with Sylvester Stallone. And Chuck Wepner and Sylvester Stallone done a script. Chuck Wepner, Rocky, Apollo Creed, Muhammad Ali. The champion giving the state champion a shot at the title. So the story of the Rocky script came from the Chuck Wepner Muhammad Ali fight It was actually based on
that
that.
story.
But they couldn't say Muhammad Ali and Chuck Wepner, so they said Rocky and Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
And Chuck Wepner was an enforcer for business people. He was a debt collector. So Rocky was an enforcer for business people, a debt collector, down on his luck. There were so many similarities of Chuck Wepner. And the rest of them, 2, 3, 4, 5, all come from the success of the first one.
You take it where you want then, can't you?
Yeah. And fair play to Sylvester Stallone and fair play to Chuck Wepner, because they've inspired so many people to box because of the success of Rocky.
Yeah.
You know, I've never met Chuck Wepner. I met Sylvester Stallone at dinner with Sylvester Stallone. Great actor, great guy, you know. And the Rocky films, I trained to the music. Eye of the Tiger. Oh, yeah. It won the Academy Award in 1980 for the music.
The soundtrack, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Incredible.
Brilliant.
You know. And then Mickey, his trainer, he was, a lot of people, remember the old Batman? He was the Penguin in Batman. I'm sure he was the Penguin. Burgess Meredith, right, a great actor, but he played Mickey. He played Rocky's trainer, you know. Now there's gyms in America, always in a lot of gyms in America, there's loads of characters like Mickey, you know, ex-fighters that have been there, done it, seen it all, you know. Yeah. And he portrayed Sylvester's Rocky's trainer so good.
But yeah, his character in that is just like you say, it's you've probably seen a lot of them, and it's just grabbed, but it's just, it all comes together, doesn't it? That film, to be like,
it's an incredible film. Yeah. And then they've made the other films a success as well. You know, he's fighting the rematch with Apollo Creed, and then he's fighting Clubber Lang, and then he's fighting Ivan Drago, then he's fighting Tommy Gunn. I'm doing a documentary for Tommy Morrison, God rest him. Yeah, they're doing a documentary about Tommy Morrison, and his wife has contacted, his widow, Trisha Morrison. She's contacted me from America, Netflix, are doing a documentary. I had the privilege of doing a tour with Tommy and Tony TNT Tucker. I'll give you a funny story. I'm going to tell it on the documentary anyway. George Ciuvallo and Ken Norton were to do the tour. They do a lot of after-dinner speaking events in the UK. And Wally Dixon, the promoter from Manchester, had brought over many fighters to do talks around the UK. And he'd arranged for Ken Norton and George Ciuvallo to come over and do a tour of the UK. Ken got sick and couldn't travel. So alongside George Ciuvallo, he put in Tommy Morrison and he put in Tony TNT Tucker. So I've got to do the tour. I'm ready to support act to these great champions. I'm like the rodeo clown. I'll warm up the audience, right? But it's a privilege and an honor to sit next to these legends of the ring. They achieved what I dreamed of achieving. You know, every fighter that climbs into the ring, Kevin, dreams about becoming a champion of the world. I wasn't good enough. I was nowhere near good enough. But I shared the ring with other great champions, you know, and I'm proud to say that they're my friends as well, because that's the great thing about boxing. It doesn't just give you self-respect, it gives you respect for your opponent, you know, and that's such an important thing in life, to have self-respect and respect for others, and I believe boxing instills that. Anyway, we're on this tour. Now, Tony TNT Tucker, is nearly 6'7". He's a big, powerful man, right? So when we're in the major cities, you're in hotels with big beds. So we're in a little village in Wales, and we're in the guest house, okay? And the beds were standard size beds, right? So Tony, 6'7", he's come down, we're downstairs, me and Tommy Morrison, Tommy's wife, he's a widow now, and Wally Dixon. So Tony's gone down, he goes, Wally, come up to the room, Wally. So Wally said, what's wrong, Tony? He said, Wally, the bed's too small, man, the bed's too small. So he goes, okay, let me see. The Wally's a little Manchester businessman. So I said to Tommy, come on, let's go and see this, right? Let's go and see this, right? I didn't encourage Tricia to come to the man's room. So me and Tony, and Wally have walked into the room. So Tony's lay on the double bed and his legs are hanging out over the edge of the bed. I'm talking nearly a foot over the edge of the bed, hanging off. Wally, look, man, he said, my feet are hanging out of the bed. What am I going to do, Wally? I got to get another bed, Wally. So I could see Wally's mind. There's no way we could get another bed. We're in a little village in Wales, right? In a guest house. So Wally goes, I know what to do, Tony. Lie diagonally, right? That's what he goes. Lie diagonally, what? Yes, lie diagonally. So Tony lays on the bed diagonally. There you go, Tony. Your feet aren't hanging off the edge of the bed. Me and Tommy Morrison, we were in convulsions laughing. But Tony accepted it. I said, okay, Wally, I'll sleep diagonally on the bed. So he's got one corner to the other corner. He's sleeping diagonally so his feet. But it was so funny. The 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, an incredible champion. And Wally Dixon telling him, lie diagonally, Tony, your feet won't hang over the bed. It was just funny. But Tommy Morrison, what a great guy and what a great champion, you know. Mm-hmm. The grandnephew of John Wayne, the Duke. And that was his nickname when he boxed, Tommy the Duke Morrison. Sadly, he was took from us too young. But he's left his legacy. He was an incredible champion. And I had the privilege, like I say, of sharing the top table with him. And he's a real nice guy. But most fighters are nice guys. Fighters are nice guys. I've been very fortunate over the years. I've shared the top table. I've shared the gym with so many great champions.
Who were the main faces around Birmingham at the time?
Oh, there's been some great fighters out of the Midlands.
Yeah.
Matt Macklin is legendary. Pat Cowdell is legendary. Wayne Elcock is legendary. Frankie Gavin, legendary. We've had some great fighters in the Midlands, you know.
I think it's growing up in this city as well at a certain time, and those guys from them ages have to be similar to your story.
There's been some great Midlands champions that have boxed for British titles, won British titles, and have performed well, you know. There's been some great amateurs. We boxed here as amateur when I was a kid. We came over from Dublin. Some legendary boxing gyms, you know. The boys at the moment, you got the Yafai brothers. They're champions. Yeah. They boxed at a Birmingham City Boxing Club. Yeah. You know, Frank Sullivan, we boxed against his club as a child. The McCrackens, you know, Robert McCracken, Max McCracken, Spencer McCracken, you know.
Sam Egginton as well. We had John Pegg on recently.
John Pegg, a great manager, great promoter. You know, young McIntosh, Eddie McIntosh, he fought in Prize Fighter. But some great promoters, great fighters. You know, there's a good tradition of boxing in the Midlands. You know, Wayne Elcock's got his sports shop now. He's supplying the gyms. Yeah. He's got a wonderful sports shop, and you've had some great rivalry with the years ago. There was the Ramsey brothers. They were great fighters, you know. And then there was Christian Brady. He was #1 contender for the British title, great welterweight. Malcolm Melvin, another great fighter, fought for the British title.
So let's get on to how you ended up sparring with.
Oh, what happened was I went over to America, Kevin. I went over to America on the Irish boxing team. I was 17, and I boxed in Atlantic City. I fought in the Tropicana Hotel and Casino. I fought in 1988 in the Sands Hotel and Casino. I fought Bruce Seldon. He went on to win the World Heavyweight title. I beat him. He went on to win the World Heavyweight title. Best win of my career. But at that stage, I'd already fought Lennox. I'd already been sparring Tyson, so I'd improved. But when I fought the American champion when I was 17, a big American Marine called William Dawson, he was 28, I was 17. He was a mature man, strong, powerful man. I was a teenage boy, a little fat boy as well. And but I was game, you know, and I got battered, you know, but I stayed on my feet, Kevin, for the 3 rounds. And Floyd Patterson was in attendance. His wife was from Offaly in Ireland, so he took a great interest in the Irish team. And he encouraged Paul Fitzgerald, the featherweight, who won't be the top American. He encouraged him to stay in America. Paul still lives in America. He lives in a place called Upper Darby in Philadelphia. Is it Pennsylvania? Philadelphia. Upper Darby, where they made the Rocky film, Philadelphia. Okay. So I saw the Rocky statue when I went to visit him. Live Aid was filmed there. Yep. And I saw the Rocky statue. But Paul lives there now, but he stayed on. Floyd Patterson gave him the opportunity to stay because he was an incredible featherweight from Arklow in Ireland. But he came over to me and he said, you got a lot of courage and you got a good chin. You don't have a lot of skill, but we can work on your skill. Would you like to stay in America? I wouldn't have had the money to come back to America, Kevin. So I said, yeah, I'll stay. So I remember phoning my mum. My dad was in England somewhere working. I remember phoning my mum. And I said, Mum, I said, Floyd Patterson has given me the chance to stay in America. I'm going to stay. She said, you'll never come home, son. I said, I'll be home next year, Mum. I'm going to stay for a year, give it a go, see how it goes. So I went to Gleason's gym with Floyd. And he introduced me to Al Gavin and Bob Jackson, who'd done the original deal with Cuss on the gym. And they had me spar in the gym with Art Tucker, who was a good heavyweight, and another heavyweight. I can't remember his name. And I gave a good account of myself. But these were mature men. I was a teenage fat boy. But it was a game teenage fat boy, you know. It was tough. Like all fighters, we're all tough. Male and female. Anyway, Al and Bob said to me, there's a young heavyweight in the Catskills called Mike Tyson, 17 years of age, looking for sparring partners. I was just so happy to hear 17. Because I'd been fighting men, mature big men. I left school when I was 14 years of age. I was on the doors of nightclubs, Kevin, when I was 15. I don't read or write so good. I wanted to make my livelihood through boxing. I wasn't good in school. I left school with 2 swimming certificates. So,
I think that was
that's what I left school with. But I had a dream of becoming a rich boxer.
Yeah.
And I didn't become a rich boxer, but I gave it a go. Anyway, so when Al and Bob gave me the chance to go and spar with a young heavyweight called Mike Tyson, I'd never heard of Mike. I didn't know who he was. He was knocking men out left, right, and centre. I didn't know this. So I got to the Catskills. I was introduced to Cuss and Camille and Marnie and Jay and Tom and the Hilton brothers, and it was a lovely, warm reception, you know. It was so wonderful, the greeting that I was given on arrival. Then they introduced me to Mike Tyson. And I remember him walking towards me, because fighters, we weigh up who were going to be fighting, who were going to be sparring. So Cuss called over Mike. Yes, this is Mike. So I'm looking at him walking towards me, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm bigger than him. As it turned out, I'm several months older than him. And he spoke with a little bit of a lisp as I was introduced to him. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to batter you. Really, I thought I've got the measure of this kid. Yeah. Because I'll be fighting men. I'm bigger, I'm older, a lot more experience than him at the time. And he embraced me. He gave me a big welcome, you know, because he loved the history of the Irish boxers. He loved Barry McGuigan in particular at the time, who was being managed by Mr. Eastwood. And when I went professional, with my boxing, I went professional with Mr. Eastwood. I'm a big fan of Barry McGuigan's. And Mike loved the relationship that Barry had with Mr. Eastwood, because it was a similar relationship, father and son, like Mike had with Cuss. So he wanted to hear all about the Irish boxing that I knew.
Yeah.
You know, and at the time I knew a fair bit about Barry because he was my hero. You know, he was the Irish world champion. Anyway, we became instant friends. We walked, we talked. Mike at the whole top of the house, beautiful big house on the Hudson River. They say the myth that Rip Van Winkle slept up there for 40 odd years. It was so tranquil and peaceful, you know, and it was beautiful. There was two sides of the Catskill Mountains that were populated by the Germans and populated by the Irish. There was a big Irish. Well, in America, there's a big history of Irish anyway, you know. They say that Columbus discovered America. Well, I beg to differ, because when Columbus landed his ship, the Santa Maria, on the coast of America, and he rowed up, he had the Santa Maria, the Nina, and the Pinty ships anyway, and he rowed up onto the coast of America, and he stepped off his rowing boat, and he's looking up the hill at the American Indian, because they are the natives of Americans, the American Indian.
Yeah.
That was their country. So the American Indian is walking down the hill towards Columbus, and Columbus is walking up the hill towards the American Indian, and Columbus put his hand out to shake hands with the American Indian, and the American Indian looked him in his eyes and went, "Top of the morning to you." So the Irish were there first, before Columbus. Paddy landed his rowing boat. He landed his rowing boat on the coast of America. Don't care what anybody says. We were there first. So me and Mike became great friends instantly through the history of Irish boxing. Went to the top of the house, and Mike had access to Jim Jacobs and Bill Caton's library of boxing footage. They're the biggest library in the world. I'm part of his management team. So he had old cine reels of fights. And to me, there's only so much boxing you can watch. To Mike Tyson, there wasn't enough. He would sit on his exercise bike and he would watch the fights, and he'd say to me, "Joe, man, if that left hook that had landed, that would have changed the history of that weight division." You know, he's like a walking encyclopedia on the history of boxing. Yeah. Unreal. He loves the sport, loves the fighters. Anyway, we went up to the top of the house, and I lived in the house with Mike. I had one of the rooms in the house because we were teenage boys. What I didn't realise was there was another part of the Catskills where other sparring partners were living in the annex, right? So when I sat at the first dinner meal in the house, I got to tell you, there's a funny story, this, Kevin, right? I'm at the dinner table, right? And there's Mike, Camille, Manny, Tom, Jade, Hilton brothers. And every household has a different rule at the dinner table. My dad used to encourage no elbows on the table. Don't talk while you're eating, right? So different households have different rules, right? So Camille has brought out the start of the soup, right? So I put my spoon in and started eating my soup. And I looked at Camille and I went, "Camille, this is gorgeous soup." Anyway, Cus put his spoon down and sat back. And he looked at me. And I thought, "Oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be speaking at the dinner table while we're eating." And he looked at me, he says, "Joe," he said, "I've often heard of a woman being called gorgeous, but never a soup." And he started laughing, and the table started laughing. And I thought to myself, my kind of people.
Yeah.
Because there's thousands of languages in the world, Kevin. We all speak different languages. And sometimes we don't know what each other is saying, but we all laugh in the same language. Laughter breaks down barriers. Yeah. And Cus had a hearty laugh. And I just knew then, at that moment in time, even though I'd been made welcome on arrival, and I'd been made welcome with Mike with his embrace, that moment there, I just knew. And I lived in the Catskills for 2 years. 2 probably wonderful years, you know, of my life. But when I got to spar with Mike, the next day, we'd gone running in the morning. And Mike was an incredible runner. And for a heavyweight, that's a great thing to do, run. Heavyweights don't particularly like running, you know. Yeah. So for a heavyweight to be a good runner, that's great. So Mike he was like a gazelle. He could shift on the road. We've come back to the house after our run, had a bite to eat, lay down, rested, till the time to go to the gym in the minibus. So now I'm going to the gym. I'm coming out to the minibus to go to the gym to spar. I'm thinking, yeah, Mike, we've done our run. We're going to spar now this afternoon, this evening. Next of all these big, powerful men appeared. I hadn't seen them They were in different parts.
Really, innit?
Yeah. And they were walking, big beasts of men, but they were walking like men going to the gallows. They were very somber, their heads hanging down. I'm looking, I'm thinking to myself, what's the problem with all that? But they knew what was coming. Stupid Paddy here didn't know what was coming. I hadn't got a clue, Kevin, right? I hadn't got a clue.
The unknown.
They were, yeah. But I was so relaxed. I really believed. I've got the measure of this kid. I'm bigger, I'm older, I'm more experienced. But they knew. These other sparring partners knew. So when we're on the bus, going to the gym, the Main Street Catskills above the police station, I'm nice and relaxed. I'm comfortable. You know, I'm feeling confident. Not an arrogance, just a confidence. Got to the gym, got into our training gear, bandaged up, shadow box, warmed up. Then Cuss said, right, glove up or sparring. So I'm looking around to see where Mike is. Next of all, I see him in the ring, and he's stripped to the waist. And his upper body, there's no way a 17-year-old...
It's the first time you've seen him.
Stripped to the waist. Yeah. You know, I couldn't believe the biceps, the chest, the neck. His body was incredible, powerful, and he's pacing the ring. Like the lion in the cage. When you're at the zoo and the lion walks up and down and he's looking out at you, it's like Mike was the same as that lion. He's in the ring, pacing the ring, looking out at his next victim, his next prey, right? I'm looking, I'm thinking to myself, ooh. Cuss pointed to one of the big, powerful men to get in and spar. Bang. First shot. Bang. Out for the count. And I'm looking. And I tell people I ruined a good pair of underpants at that moment. I shit myself. I thought, there's no way this 17-year-old boy should have this power. He's just knocked Spark out. A powerful, big beast of a man. Couple more got in. Battered, knocked out. I was number 4. I got in. But I lasted 3 minutes. I lasted longer than the previous 3 sparring partners. But the madness in me, because I do believe fighters have a bit of madness in them. You know, you play football, you play golf, you play tennis, you play basketball, you don't play fighting. Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, karate, any full contact form of fighting, boxing, you don't play. It's not a game. It's a combat sport. It's a combat sport. And you get hurt. You know, sadly there's been fatalities. We don't get into the ring. We don't get into the cage. We don't get onto the mat to kill. We get onto the mat, the cage, the ring to win. You know, and we fight. And Mike Tyson was one of the most incredible punchers that I've ever been hit with. And I've been hit by some hard punches in my time. You know, but I'm very proud to say that I stayed on my feet for the 2 years of sparring, you know, and it's a great claim to fame. When I fought Lennox Lewis, I really believe psychologically I've took Mike Tyson's punishment. I could take Lennox Lewis's punishment, and I stayed on my feet with Lennox Lewis because of fighter's pride. You want to hear that final bell. You know, there's that poem, stand up and fight, fight like hell. Stand up and fight until you hear that final bell. And that's all a fighter wants to be in there, to hear that final bell. I hadn't got a chance against Lennox Lewis. He had to have the worst day of his career, and I'd have the best day of my career to have any sort of chance. But I wanted to hear that final bell. My own victory, my own moral victory, to be there at the end of the fight, you know. And I did, because psychologically, I took Tyson's punishment, Mike Tyson's punishment. I could take Lewis's punishment. And this particular day we sparred, me and Mike and those 4 white sparring partners. He knocked 3 of them out. I was number 4. And he battered me from pillar to post, but he never put me down. And at the end of the spar, he said, Joe Egan is the toughest white man on the planet. Far, far, far from it, Kevin.
I love that.
I was the toughest white man in the gym that day. But what a compliment.
Brilliant.
Listen, I got battered by Mike and I got battered by Lennox Lewis. But if you're going to get battered, you must get battered by the best. I got battered by the best, you know. And people say, Joe, you milk it a little bit. Yeah, I do milk it. I've earned the right to milk it.
Yeah, exactly.
I've earned the right to milk it. I'll be on a life support machine and I'll be lying there and I sparred Mike Tyson.
Right, it's absolutely,
you know, I've earned the right.
Yeah.
You know, and You know, they say you've walked the walk, you're entitled to talk the talk, you know, and it's not egotistical. I'm not egotistical in any way, shape or form. It's something I'm very proud of, you know, and I'm a proud man, you know, about the royalty out of respect, about the no man out of fear, you know, and that walk to the boxing ring has helped me overcome so much fear in my life. You know, there's two spellings of the word fear. The coward spells fear, forget everything and run. The fighter spells fear, face everything and rise. And that's what I've been all my life. You know, I've been a fighter, and win, lose or draw, I've given my best. But Bruce Seldon, when I fought Seldon, he was incredible. He was special. He went on to win the world heavyweight title. And I got battered in round one. I mean, smashed to bits, Kevin. Psychologically, I believed I could take it. I've took it off Mike. Mike made me cry so many times, hospitalised me a few times. I've took it off Lennox Lewis. So I really believed in my heart I could take it off Seldon. But my cornermen, Mickey Hawkins and Jerry Hanna, they didn't think that I could. They're compassionate cornermen. And they said, Joe, we're going to retire you on your stool after round one. I said, I'm not quitting on my stool. Winners never quit and quitters never win. I can take this. The referee stops you, you got no argument, right? So I've left my stool for round two. I've walked out. Seldon couldn't believe that I was walking up my stool to come to the centre of the ring to fight, because he'd hurt me, battered me in round one. I walked to the centre of the ring. As he's looking at me, the bell went to hit him. I couldn't get near him in round one. He was too fast, too graceful, too brilliant. But for that split second, he stood still. And in my body shot, Kevin, it was the best punch that I could throw. I've got a good body shot. I sunk it into him, smashed it into his ribs, right? And he winced. Oh! And I knew I hurt him. And I slowed him down. And I went on to win the best win of my career. And it was an incredible victory. And he went on, like I said, to win the world heavyweight title. But after the fight, I have to go to hospital. I'm all busted up. Even though I won, I'm busted up. From round one anyway, I'm busted up. And I've go to hospital in the ambulance. There was 10 great champions of the world in attendance. Rocky Graziano, Jersey Joe Walker, Jake LaMotta, Jersey Joe Walker. I said, Rocky Graziano, Jake LaMotta, Jersey Joe Walker, Sandy Sadler, Billy Conn, Vito Antuofermo, Floyd Patterson, Chico Vija, Alexis Aguero, and anyway, 10 great champions in attendance. We were boxing in their honour. I got 2 programs signed, one for me and one for my dad. Got 2 programs signed by these 10 legends of the ring. And we were boxing in their honour. But what I didn't realise outside of the ring, I had enough problems inside of the ring. What I didn't realise outside of the ring, Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull, he was fighting the fight with me. He was throwing punches. And he tripped. And he cut his eye and hurt his arm. Right? So I'm in the back of the ambulance. I'm in a lot of pain. The adrenaline's wearing off. And I'm wondering what the delay is. I knew I hadn't hurt Seldon like he'd hurt me. So he wasn't being hospitalised. Jake LaMotta's brought to the back of the ambulance, the Raging Bull. And he looked at me and he goes, the heavyweight, great fight, kid. Best anaesthetic I've ever had. The pain was lifted. The Raging Bull.
Let's go again.
The Raging Bull complimented me on a win. Anyway, we became friends. And I kept in touch with the man. And I visited him in New York, at a home in Florida as well. Him and his wife, Denise. Me and my wife, Ruth, we visited him. We had dinner with him in New York. My wife's a Birmingham girl, Ruth Delaney. And I got a lot of affection for Birmingham. I got a lot of friends here and family through Ruth. Mm. But we had dinner with him in New York in Gallagher Steakhouse. And at the press conference for him and his fight with, one of his fights with, God, I've gone blank again. Anyway, so I'm in the back of the ambulance with Jake, and I'm lifted with the pain because of the compliment. But he'd done dinners over here, and I shared the top table with him. And we done a dinner it was in Carlisle. Steve Collins' brother, Roddy, had managed the Carlisle soccer team.
Right.
And Steve was doing the dinner. with me and Jake LaMotta, you know.
Brilliant.
And then they agreed to do a book signing because I had a book written about me. Mike Tyson launched the book in Canary Wharf, 2005. Pardon me, one of the proudest days of my life. Cass Pennant published the book, Ronald Graham wrote the book. Mike launched the book, brought Canary Wharf to a standstill. Steve Collins has come to the book signing, Barry McGuigan's come to the book signing, loads of world champions, Paul Silky Jones, Alan Minter, Charlie Magritte, these legends of the ring have come to my book signing, thousands of people. I know everybody was there for Mike Tyson, but he was there for me. I did the book signing in Carlisle after the dinner with Steve Collins and Jake LaMotta, and they both attended the book signing. And we were interviewed by the press, the BBC, the ITV, everybody was there to interview Jake LaMotta at the book signing. And a very proud day. And the interviewer said to Jake, "Do you know Joe a long time?" He said, "Me and Joe go way back." He said, "Joe was like me. Joe would fight anybody." I thought, what a compliment from the Raging Bull. But he looked at me, he goes, "But he wasn't so fat then." You know, I put a bit of weight on when my career finished, you know. So you're like, yeah. But the guy that was filming it for me, a guy called Liam Galvin, it's on my DVD. Liam said, "Should I cut it out, to edit it out?" I said, "No, not ashamed to put the weight on.
Yeah.
You know, I like my food.
Yeah.
People ask me what my favourite meal is. I say seconds. That's my favourite meal. You know, I love food. You know, and some people eat to live. I live to eat.
Yeah.
I really
And so having to say that, it just shows
I really do, you know, and
the relationship.
yeah, but it was beautiful. And like I say, we had dinner with him in New York in Gallagher Steakhouse, and I'd done a few book signings with him, and I visited him in his apartment in Manhattan, and I took my brother-in-law. My sister Constance is married to an ex-New York cop. She married him when he was becoming a policeman in New York, NYPD. And he retired after 20 years. They live in North Carolina now because the taxes are cheaper from the pension than the New York taxes. So they live in a place called Apex. They live on a road called Apex Boulevard Road. What a beautiful name for a road, you know. And
So it's amazing.
they've been together a lot of years. They've got 2 children, Tom and Lucia, and he's a good man. You know, he's a good man. She's my younger sister. She's the eldest of the 4 girls. But me and Joe went to visit.
I was going to say, he has to be a good man now for the big brothers.
Yeah, well, I've been very fortunate. You know, I've been very fortunate with my brothers and sisters. They've all good partners. You know, I haven't had my four sisters, partners, husbands. They've been very blessed. You know, they've all got children. I haven't got any kids. And me and my wife decided we didn't want children. Children wasn't for me. And my wife loved me enough not to have children. You know, and I'm a good uncle. You know, I've got loads of nephews and nieces, but the great thing about having nephews and nieces, you can give them back. You know. Anyway, we got 2 cats. Right. Anyway, me and Joe, we got to visit Jake in his apartment in Manhattan because Joe's grandmother had lived on the same street as Jake LaMotta. And Joe's name is Joe Marcatelli. He's an Italian, of Italian descent. So Jake LaMotta's Italian descent, so he's obviously one of the Marcatelli's heroes, same as Rocky Graziano, one of the Marcatelli's heroes. Yeah. And we went to visit Jake in his apartment, and he made me so proud in front of my brother-in-law. But he said, "Joe," he said, "it's great to have you here in my home," and Denise's wife made us so welcome. He said, "I've got to clarify one thing, Joe." He said, "In front of your brother-in-law, you ain't the toughest white man on the planet. I'm the toughest white man on the planet." Who's going to argue with Jake LaMotta that he's not the toughest white man? He's the Raging Bull.
All right, yeah. Anyone else, you'd be like, yeah.
It was such fun. The fact that he even said that, you know. And I said to my brother-in-law, "How cool was that?"
That is so cool.
He said it was brilliant. You know, to be in Jake LaMotta's home. So my brother-in-law, Joe Marcatelli, had that privilege the same as I had, to be in his home that day. But I've been very blessed over the years. You know, I've lived a hard life, but a good life, Kieran, you know. And
I was going to move on to fast forward now.
Go on.
So, how you've offered John Fury out?
Oh, listen, that's.
I like it. I like your.
Okay.
I like your videos.
I tell you what's happening.
It's obviously Tyson's retired now, so it could be the biggest Fury boxing match around. Couldn't
Well, the thing is, right? What happened with me and him, right? like I said earlier, my mother's people are travelling people. So I come from that community, right? I've got a lot of family in the travelling community. And I told me and my friends, you know, I've done dinner shows with them. We've done a show down in Morecambe. No, not Morecambe, in Great Yarmouth. Tyson lives in Morecambe. We've done a show in Great Yarmouth for another travelling man. Leon, he put the show on. And it was during the break in COVID. Me, Paddy Doherty and John. And the room was full of 1,000 travellers. You know, great atmosphere, great crack. So I've done shows with John, you know. I've done shows with Tyson. I'm a massive fan of Tyson. You know, I'm a big fan of his other son, Tommy. You know, I know the Fury family. I know his brother Peter. He's my friend. You know, Peter's trained Huey, his son, and he's trained some great champions. And I've got the greatest of respect for the Fury family. And like I said, I thought John was my friend. So there was a movie premiere in Cannes of a film that I did called Prize Fighter. Russell Crowe of the Gladiator fame, he's in the film. Ray Winston, iconic British actor.
Legend.
Brilliant. I've done 3 films with Ray. And he's an ex-boxer, a Repton. He's my friend. You know, me and my wife have had dinner with him, you know, with his wife. And a great guy. Really, really down to earth, humble, dignified, an incredible actor. So he's at the premiere. And I couldn't attend the premiere. I was working. But Matt Pearce, who's the actor in the film and the producer of the film, his father, Dave Pearce, was the ex-British heavyweight champion, who's dead now, God rest him. Well, Matt phoned me, he said, Joe, Tyson Fury's in town, in Cannes, for the premiere of Maverick. Prize Fighter premiered before Maverick, 6 till 8, Maverick was 8 till 10. So he said, is there any possibility you could get Tyson to come to the premiere? So I said, yeah. So I contacted Tyson. I told him about Matt Pearce. He obviously knew who Dave was, his former British heavyweight champion. And he said, yeah, I'll attend the premiere. So Tyson attended the premiere. John was at the premiere. Russell Crowe said to John in front of Ray Winston, in front of Matt Pearce, there's another boxer in the film, Joe Egan. Do you know Joe? And instead of John saying, yeah, Joe's my friend, he goes, Joe's a fraud. Joe's a fake hard man. I've never claimed to be a hard man. Never in my life. People that have battered me have said Joe's a tough guy. Joe's a hard man. I've never claimed it. Ray Winston went, ooh, Russell Crowe. And when I got told that, I was so upset. Very, very upset, because I thought he's supposed to be my friend, but he's a glory hunter. He doesn't even give Tyson, the heavyweight champion of the world, his glory. He doesn't give Tommy, a professional fighter, his glory. He doesn't give his brother Peter, an incredible trainer, glory. He doesn't give Huey glory, his nephew. He wants the glory himself. So what chance have I got of getting any glory? You know? So when I got told this, I was very upset, because I thought the man was my friend. So I thought, got to see him. Then he's on the stage shouting, he's the hardest 58-year-old man on the planet. No, he's not, and neither am I. But I got a grudge, so we fight. So I stood up to the mark and I said, John, you've insulted me, we fight. Them or they aren't worthy of a fight with me. Like he's something special. Neither of us were any good. Truth be told, Kevin, he was just tough, the same as I'm tough. You know, he wasn't going to be a world champion, neither was I. And 2 donkeys make a good race, right? And that's the way it is. Yeah. I'm no class boxer or class fighter. I was just tough. He was the same. I've been hit by 4 heavyweight champions of the world and not knocked out. He was hit by 1 and knocked out. So I believe my chin's better than his. And I've got a grievance. I've got a grudge. Then he's saying, them or they aren't worthy of a fight with him. Like he's something special. I've earned the right to be called by my own name in fight circles. I might be a them or a they to a football player or a golfer or a tennis player or a basketball player. But in fight circles, we've earned the right to be called by our own name. So I said, John, you call me by my own name. I've earned the right to be called by my own name. So then, because of me standing up to him, because I do believe he's a bully, right? He's been shown to be a bully. When he headbutted that young man out in Saudi, the young Ukrainian that was cheering for Usyk, he headbutted him. He walked past all the big men to headbutt the little guy. That shows the bully in him.